All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here today. We'll do our standard wait a couple minutes for others to trickle in. But for those of you who are here on time, thank you as always. We'll get started right at 12:02. So if you're here, grab that cup of coffee, run to the bathroom, whatever you need to do to get comfortable, and then we'll start in a couple minutes. Thank you.
Hi there. Excuse me. Can I just get a glass of ice water? Just ice water? Thank you.
Jerry, I appreciate that you took the instructions literally and you too are getting yourself prepared for the presentation. So good
Oh,
call.
absolutely. Absolutely. So we were doing this. Originally, I was going to meet with some folks for lunch, and then we negotiated into breakfast brunch to be on this call. And we were sitting outside, not my choice. It was just way too hot. So I came inside, but then I also lost the water that I had at my table.
Perfect. All right. All right, it is 12:02, so we'll go ahead and get started. Um, Thank you everyone again for being here. Appreciate you taking some time out of your day for our Cameron Plans weekly webinar series. Today is Compassionate Capitalism, tapping into a $1 trillion real estate opportunity that streamlines home ownership. And it's with John and Jerry. I'll let them introduce themselves a little bit later. Let me actually put up my slideshow. Sorry. Here we go. As always, this webinar is for educational purposes only. So Cameron Plan is not an advisor, and we always encourage investors to do their own due diligence and seek the appropriate counsel from the right professionals when making any investment or tax decisions. Also, housekeeping issue, the chat will be turned off, but the Q&A feature will be turned on. So please use the Q&A to ask questions during the presentation. And then finally, if you have any questions about the presentation today that don't get answered, or you have any self-directed IRA questions, you can always reach out to me directly at the contact information there in front of you, and you can schedule a call with me with that QR code. All right, John and Jerry, you are up. Please take it away.
Hi there. My name is John. I am the founder of StaterHome.Fund. I really appreciate Matt and Camaplan inviting us to this community. We really appreciate that. That's very kind, and I just really wanted to acknowledge that. My name is John. We started. I'm going to give you a little bit more background in a minute, but just kind of the overall where we're going and what we're doing. We have this core idea thesis of compassionate capitalism does work. And we've proven that repeatedly. We're on our ninth transaction now. And we built this foundation of build community, build wealth with the idea that we can, in fact, help people and create wealth at the same time. We are very much a social impact company. That is our North Star. Hey, Jerry, could you mute first? There's a lot. Thank you. Uh, we're very much a social impact company. We serve others. That's our core mission. Um, so we also have a legal disclaimer. We're not selling securities. This is educational purpose, yada yada. Same exact thing Matt just said. Um, this is our core business plan in one slide. We thought this would be very, very helpful. I am not going to talk a lot about the investment piece of it. I think you guys get that. You're all investors. We are also investors. But I wanted to have one slide that just says, okay, what does this look like? We get investors, we buy old distressed apartment buildings. Generally, at super discounts. We're trending about a 65% discount off ARV. Then we will convert them into starter home, first time home buyer condos, right? An old apartment building into a condo. Our goal is to help about 1,000 families become first time home buyers. AMI, area median income. So this is, we work with the people like Home Depot lumber loader, Starbucks barista, first year teacher, second year cop, right? We are working with low to moderate means income home buyers. And then returns are pretty amazing. 15 or 18% annualized return to our investors, and that's dependent on check size. So, but this is our entire business model in one simple slide. Um, I'm going to talk about myself for a second. I have the coolest job in the world, and I joke about this all the time. So if you're in the EOS system, you understand visionary versus integrator. So I'm the visionary. Jerry's the integrator. We actually have a full team of integrators. Like everybody in in our universe, I get to be the visionary, and we're surrounded by 6 integrators, which is pretty amazing for a company of our size. It's I've been in the real estate world. I bought my first house at 19 years old. That's why that's part of our story is I'm now 58. I've had 40 years in the real estate world. I've done upwards of $180 million with my name on the signature. This is decades before syndication. This was all me writing checks and getting loans. Jerry has been in the business for about 25 years. He's on, you'll note that he's in a suit and tie and I'm in a t-shirt, right? There's definitely a personality style. Jerry, could you come off mute and talk about yourself for a little bit?
Absolutely, John. Thanks for that. Yep, I am John's other half. Lots of residential and commercial real estate. John and I were friends for several years before actually launching Starter Home. And it is a marriage of each of our skills that I bring all the back office, all the SEC compliance, you name it, anything systems or process oriented. That's my wheelhouse. And John sets the vision. And between the two of us, when we set our mind on a solution, we trust the other one's strengths, but we also lean on the other one's strength. So it's a very, very cooperative uh, direction. Like I really enjoy working with John.
Love it. Love it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Cindy and Vikram, operations. Cindy spent 30 years in the classroom, right? So she's very used to chaos management and getting details. Like she'll take the 50,000 foot level down to the 5,000 foot level and get like operationally systems created. Vikram has been in the marketing world for 20 years. He is frankly responsible for our pitch deck and our website, and like he's a genius at creating um, compelling imagery that gets the message across simply. So I love our team. Um, it's the vision, right? We are this sounds big and I don't mean it to be like fluffy, but we've developed the blueprint that solves the housing affordability crisis and the down payment dilemma on a national scale. Like that's a really big statement, right? That's our vision. That's where we're going. To date, we've developed about 115. It's not a big number, but I'm proud of it. We've changed the lives of about 115 people so far, right? With creating home ownership opportunities in various stages of on 9 different projects. Um, So here's the problem, right? Huge graphic really kind of tells this story. You've got when I bought my house, I was 19. The Back in 1985, the average purchaser of a new home was 29 years old. Now it's 40, right? We're talking a lost decade. These average renters are spending $300,000 on rent. There's no equity buildup. It's just this extraction of wealth on on our young generation. They all want home ownership, but they can't make this gap. And that's about a hundred million households locked out of wealth creation. I'm assuming, since you're an investor on this call, I'm making the assumption that you own your home. I want you to think about what that day was like when you first bought your home, right? Happy tears, you're taking a photo. Like, what was that day like? And think about this 100 million people who cannot experience the joy that you already have. So, we're trying to bridge that gap, um, average median income versus how much you actually have to have in order to buy a house. So, part of the problem, and it depends on which report you're reading, but there's between 5 and 10 million missing homes in the US. And it really kind of bubbles down to these five factors, right? Lack of scale, labor, materials, political will. I'm not even going to get into the conversation in political will. Code standards and regulatory, right? The biggest, we see this, Jerry and I see this literally every day. These two problems really outweigh these other three, the cost of materials and the lack of skilled labor. Something you need to know that 55% of skilled labor are in that retirement age. Here in Clark County, where I live, the average plumber is 58 years old. The average age of a plumber in Clark County, Washington is 58 years old, right? They're all retiring, and there's only 8% entering the workforce, right? Under between 18 and 25. So there's this massive skilled labor shortage, which now means if you're going to get a plumber, you're spending $250 an hour. If you want a concrete person, you're spending $400 an hour, right? These are prices unheard of 2 decades ago. And so these are core problems within the housing affordability crisis. It's not just build more, it's five different pieces that are jigsawed together to try to make a solution, and it's just not working. So we decided we were going to do our business model instead. Uh, we work with a lot of nonprofits. So I want you to understand, like, put your hat on for a second about like this is a three-tiered, think of supply and demand, right? And Starter Home Fund is in the middle. On the supply side, we buy apartment buildings from nonprofit housing providers. We're going to talk about that in a second. Uh, we'll buy a 23 unit or an 8 unit, or we'll buy these small apartment buildings that are basically disheveled and valueless. We will do the renovation, condo conversion, the guts of the transaction, and then we will work with a housing provider on so these two are nonprofits, Reach and Portland Housing Center. These guys have helped 10,000 families become homeowners, right? So they'll help with the financial literacy, the budgeting, the mortgage readiness. So that's kind of how we create these transactions. We work with 21 different nonprofits around the country. And when we buy their properties, we're buying it at a super discount, generally pennies on the dollar. because the value of these properties are so run down that they really just don't have like we're going to talk about the NOI in a second, but the value of these properties they're not sellable on the open market. They have to find a organization like ours to do the work to bring them up to standard code, and then we give a giant discount when we create the condo and sell it as a residential condo, we will give 25% of the net profits back to the organization that we purchased from. So it's very symbiotic. The question I get all the time is how do we buy buildings at 30 cents on the dollar? Okay, so in Portland, standard rent is about 1850. You got 12 plex, 12 units times 12 months, 70% NOI, 6% cap rate. This building is worth 3 million bucks pretty consistently. Like that's the math of it. Same building, identical, could be across the street, owned by a nonprofit. The math is wildly different. They're going to have much lower rents, 1100. They're going to have much higher expense ratios. They might only have a 40% NOI. Many of the properties that we look at have negative NOI, right? So that creates, because that building is only worth 1 million bucks now, because we all know we buy on cap rate. So uh, that creates this $2 million delta between a market rate deal and a nonprofit deal. Does that make sense? Okay. So that's the core of our model in a pretty succinct one slide. Um, Proof of what we've done. So Barry and Associates is the largest appraisal service here in the Portland region. 2 million, 2.5 million people. And they come out with this report every year. Um, we bought Laurelhurst uh, apartments uh, a year and a half ago, 18 months ago. We bought it for 1.5. We put 2 million in reno. We got 250 in ops. There's a $2 million delta between all costs in and what we're selling it for, right? So when we bought the building, we bought it at 107 a square foot versus 191. We bought it at 65,000 a door versus $170,000 a door. Like that's the power of what we're doing. That's uh, we call this compassionate capitalism, right? There are two sides to the equation. The compassion side, that's the nonprofits versus the capitalist and we really mesh the two together. So they're cooperating with us. We get these amazing purchase prices. We're then helping to create a community of owners, which makes the world better. We'll talk about that in a second. Um, we're creating these small micro communities, build community, build wealth. We're helping these families become owners, and then we give a big chunk of the profits back to our um, nonprofit partners. Okay.
John, let me stop you for a second.
Sure.
You might be covering this later on, but I think, like, especially if you go back to the slide previous to this one, kind of give in real example, like, what are the reasons why the nonprofit housing property
Yeah.
is operating at a negative NOI, and in sort of the factors that are impacting this organization's ability to manage the property.
Sure. Great. Okay. So I'm going to go back to Laurelhurst. right? Laurelhurst was 30% occupied. Super small units, literally 50 to 75-year-old units, right? Had not been turned in 5 decades. It's a 100-year-old building, right? So that you don't have the demand of people who want to live there, right? This is a market rate deal. It's been well kept. It's got new appliances. It's got new countertops. It's got new flooring. This is 50-year-old countertops, 50-year-old flooring, 50-year-old systems. I mean, we spent $250,000 on the plumbing, another 250,000 on the windows, and a $500,000 on rent on the roof, right? So systematically, this property, even they could be literally across the street from each other, systematically, this property is just simply worth less because you've got 100-year piping, right?
Yep.
And so that's a big piece. And then the occupancy, I mean, I'm being generous saying that it's fully occupied because in fact, they're mostly not occupied. One of the buildings we bought had zero occupancy, right? This building was 30% occupancy. So that's why these properties are super discounted. Um, they're just not desirable. There's no demand for these.
So is
Like,
it accurate to say that you have, at the inception, that the nonprofit is purchasing this property with the mission of wanting to provide housing to a certain population, but just because of sort of the organization or business structure of that nonprofit, they're not able to keep up with just the regular turnovers and keep the property updated, which
yeah.
has a cyclical effect that affects demand or reduces demand. And so less demand means less rent incoming coming in, and then the problem just sort of like festers till you get what you have, with your Laurelhurst example.
Yeah, exactly. Because the rents are generally subsidized, there isn't enough profit in the transaction to maintain those systems, right? There's not enough. Uh, I mean, we're all property owners here. Which would you rather have, a 2026 build or a 2004 a 1946 build,
Hmm.
right? There's just a dearth of problems associated with the nonprofit housing world that we as market rate operators don't experience. A lot of times you might have a staff person assigned to the rent roll to let's say this person in the upper right window, that person might be hearing impaired, right? You might have a social worker assigned to the expense of that building to help this person that's hearing impaired, right?
Hmm.
This person might be in a wheelchair. Let's say he's got cerebral palsy. You might have another or the same staff person assigned to the expense ratio to help manage and monitor that person in a wheelchair, for example. Like they
Got it.
have very different um, ethos on how they manage the property. As a result, you're because there isn't any income coming in, they're nonprofit by default. They're not making a profit. They're not taking care of deferred maintenance. You might have a broken window that doesn't, I mean, we've got two properties in escrow right now that are nonprofit owned. One window has been broken for 3 years.
Wow.
Window, like a $250 fix, that window has been broken for 3 years. The garbage bill hasn't been paid for 3 years. It's an $80,000 garbage bill, right? So, I mean, they're relying on HUD, they're relying on grants, they're relying on these external circumstances that if they don't get a grant, they can't pay the garbage bill.
Yep.
It's a very, very different operational, um, and that's what's creating this huge delta.
And so at some point, I assume the nonprofit housing NGO says this is sort of out of our control, so they're looking for a solution,
Yeah.
but they still want to kind of like find a mission-driven solution, I suppose. Okay.
That's exactly right. So the term that Reach is one of the organizations that we buy from. They coined this term mission adjacent,
Mm,
right? They've been using that term for us for 3 years now, right? We are mission adjacent. It's this alignment, right? So we'll buy from Reach, we'll do the condo conversion, and then we'll work with Portland Housing to find the buyers. And we're very aligned in each organization's role, right? These guys, Reach owns about 3,500 doors right now, and these guys have helped 10,000 homeowners, but they don't have the construction expertise. They don't have the finance expertise, and that's where we come. We sit in the middle.
great.
These are lovely questions. If you have more, please jump in. I
All
do
right.
not like monologuing. I would much rather ask questions than monologue.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'll find more, and then again, just a reminder to those of you who just came in the audience, please use the Q&A feature to ask questions that you have.
These were great. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate it. Okay, so we covered like we buy things at dirt cheap prices. Like that's okay. So our kind of how what we do that makes things work so well, we provide between us and PHC, Portland Housing Center, there's a significant portion of down payment assistance, right? These families, we serve that 680 credit score. Sometimes we can go to 640 credit score. So we serve this lower tier, lower financial echelon person. So the down payment assistance is really important. We put in deed restrictions at the HOA level. Uh, Making this permanently affordable, right? When we buy from a nonprofit, they write into their purchase and sale agreement, this cannot be another apartment. We have to convert it into ownership. And 40 years, 100 years into the future, it still has to hold deed restrictions that make this an affordable home ownership opportunity. They never want to see these as apartments again. So we provide that piece. We do solid construction. We're generally speaking about $60,000 per door reno. I know a lot of our multifamily folks, they're gasping at the idea of 60 grand per door per reno. You guys generally 15 to 25, and 25 is high. We're double that at least on all of our renos. And that's because we put in washer and dryer, we put in the stoves, we put in like we're doing everything to a condo level quality. And then just from an accountability, you guys are investors. We do bi-monthly, every 2 weeks on Monday, we have our investor updates. We do live Q&A questions with our investors. So you get to see the progress. You get to see uh, how we're doing it. If you want to watch the sausage get made, you can do that. You talk to like we give you direct access to our property manager, to our designer, to our construction manager, GC. Like you get to talk directly to the people responsible for our business. So I love that piece of it. Um, We've got a couple of case studies I want to walk through. This is a completed project. We've actually got four completed projects at this point. Campus, we bought for 1.8. We put 650 into reno, 250 into ops, all in 2.7. It's valued at 4.5. Literally every single transaction we've done nine now. and each of those have either have seen a 75 to 125% increase in value, right? We've doubled the value across the board in every property that we've got. Oops, I missed one. Fir Grove, this is our newest one. We just got it into on the RMLS today. I'm very excited by this. Yeah, Fir Grove is our most recent property. We bought it at 1.9, 4,400,000 in reno. We got 1.6 in cost, and we're selling it for four. And for two. We got a $400,000. This is a 6 unit. It was a super fast. If you're used to the multifamily syndication, you're looking at a 3 to 5 year hold. This is a 12-month transaction. We bought this June 17th of last year, and we are selling it right now. We'll be exited in a total of 18 months on this transaction. We exit on this one in under 2 years. We exit on this one, same thing. It's got about a $500,000, right? This is a 12-month transaction. We're selling this unit now, and it took us 12 months to get through the process. So if you're looking at these long cycle multifamily holds, that's not us. We are very, very, very quick. And we're a fund. We're not a single purpose vehicle. So because our transactions are fast and they're all across the country, there's no lag of you don't have to wait 5 years to get your funds back. If you wanted to pull your funds out in a year, you could do that. Um, so this is the property we're closing on Monday. It's like you see this cadence. We're very quick, we're very responsive to the market, and we know that holding costs kills deals. So we're very, 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 very quick. This is the property we got it into escrow 2.5 months ago. We're closing. I thought we were going to close tomorrow, but it looks like Monday we're closing. This one is a nonprofit. So this is a market rate deal, right? We're buying it for 925, 6 units. This is a nonprofit deal, 600 grand purchase, right? And this is Portland. We're buying this at $75,000 a door when the market says it should be 175,000, right? And so like we're slated to close this in a couple, I don't know, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. It might be 10 weeks, but this is when we're buying from a nonprofit, they're longer close cycles. This is another nonprofit, similar neighborhood. By the way, this is 2004. These two are both 2004 construction. These are 20-year-old buildings as opposed to 50 and 100-year-old buildings. So that's another benefit of working with the nonprofits is we just get some pretty outstanding. Matt, how much time do we have?
We have until 1 o'clock Eastern, but so you have about a little bit less than 30 minutes.
Okay, I'm trying to go fast. I'm mostly done.
Okay.
Okay, so this is kind of our transaction in a nutshell. We might buy it for 70 a door. We might spend 60 for reno, 50 for OpEx, all in 180. That's a pretty standard number for us. We might sell that unit for 2.25. By the way, I want to go back to our original slide. The market price for a stick-built home in Portland is about $550,000. We're selling our units at 225, 175, 3.25. We're $200,000 to $300,000 cheaper than a stick-built house in the same market, in the same neighborhood. We are substantially substantially less expensive. Condo conversion is probably the only way we're going to solve the housing affordability crisis. It's too difficult to go through the regulatory process. It's too expensive to build new. So we have to take these old buildings and convert them into new uses. And so that's where our target is to help that 680 credit score buyer, and our model enables them to do it. And we're seeing this rent. We talk about rent to mortgage parity all the time. They might be spending 2 grand for rent, a mortgage 2,300, right? That's very consistent for what we're seeing. And the down payment, we're asking for 5,000 down, not the national average is $71,000, right? So it's really, really beneficial. And because we're carrying part of that cost, we're carrying the second mortgage, they don't have to pay PMI, right? That saves 250 to 500. I just helped a family buy a home. And because we eliminated the PMI, they're saving $277 a month, just eliminating private mortgage insurance, right? That helps solve the affordability crisis. Because we're carrying part of the mortgage, it lowers their interest rate. Instead of a 7, they're getting a 6 on their interest rate. So mechanically, we've figured out, and that's this collaboration with the nonprofits. Mechanically, we figured out how to ultimately help this family. We're in 5 states currently, and we've got a fair concentration in the Portland, Seattle, Tacoma region. And then we've got a property in Danville, Virginia, Little Rock, Tampa, and then we're opening up Chicago and Denver. This is a national solution. This is not just a Portland thing. Portland is extremely innovative in housing solutions. There's several really good innovative organizations in Portland, but we're taking this on a national scale. Nonprofits own roughly 1 out of 9 apartments in the US. So there's a huge buying opportunity, 5 million units, and there's 100 million people locked out of homeownership. So like solving this massive multi-trillion-dollar problem. Risk. I love so all pretty much across the board. Uh, let's say we have, oh, hypothetically, a war starts out and our economy goes to hell in a handbasket. Um, we break even at 70% units sold, pretty much across the board. So there's pretty minimal risk. Because we've done a condo quality, we can always rent the units. We don't have to wait for a downturn to cycle through. We can either rent and we'll get our investors, like the property will be self-sustaining for the most part, or we can sell. And risk mitigation is something that we talk about. Jerry specifically and I talk about the risk mitigation. Um, the macro economy might suck, but the micro economy might be great. Seaside, Oregon. Um, this property is 2 blocks away from a golf course and 3 blocks away from the Pacific Ocean. High desirability. In the worst case scenario, let's say something happens with Iraq and it makes things worse, we know that the micro area that we're buying is going to be okay, right? So we talk about the macro of it, the risk mitigation. That's literally the first conversation we have on every property we look at. And this is the solution, right? We've solved this affordability crisis. Here's kind of one of the last slides. It might be the last slide. Um, home ownership. I want you to go back to that moment when you realize that you got the keys to your first home, right? Better stability for the home ownership, right? The neighborhood gets stabilized, you reduce crime, you get 10 times more civic engagement, 8 times better health outcomes. And my wife has been a teacher for 30 years, so this is really important to her, right? The better educational stability with the family, right? And National Association of Realtors says that you get $125,000 into direct input into the local economy for every home sold, right? These are outstanding outcomes when we help a family become a homeowner. So, like, I just want you to think of the larger picture and how, like, I get chills every single time I go to escrow and these young kids, like happy tears streaming down their cheeks because they went from renting to owning. And like it is a magnificent moment to participate in, to watch these families move from one rung to the next on the ladder. And it's an enormously gratifying thing. And it's crazy lucrative. This is my very last slide. Like I'm not trying to sell anything, but it is we're paying our investors 18 or 15% annual average return. Like it's good for the world, it's good for the individual, it's good like everything we do is pretty fun. So that's it. Questions. What do you think? What do you think, Matt? Where are we going?
A question I had, I think you, right, like 2 or 3 slides ago, you gave the example of the Seaside Oregon property, relative to
Oh yeah.
as a sub-market, how it's protected. Can you talk more about just the pipeline of the pipeline of the property, how it goes from one stage to the next, and the role that um, it wasn't Reach, but I think it was the Portland like Housing Authority or Portland Housing, sort of the role that they play in, maybe this is a wrong way to put it, but the role they play in help, supporting the properties get sold and the units get sold. Because I think you and I have known each other for a while, and what's been interesting about this model are the counterparties or the other parties that are in place. And I think specifically, if you could talk about how that entity plays its role with the sale of the properties.
Yeah, that'd be great. So I'm going to invite Jerry to jump in because we are partners. We are equal, and I want him to be able to connect with our community as well. So Jerry, do you want to answer that one?
I do, but I actually want to share something that wasn't asked that I think is important for our listeners, and that's, looking at this property. When John and I bought this property, the conversation was, who are we serving? What group of people? What is our sort of target avatar buyer of this particular condo? And so for this particular building, we believe that's a 55 plus community. So these are likely to be retirees or soon to be retirees. And we believe there are 6 people in either Portland or Seaside that would like to own, a 2 bedroom condo blocked from the Pacific Ocean for our price point as their retirement place that might be 5, 7 years down the road. And so, John talked earlier as like the macro level is that houses aren't selling particularly quickly right now. But if you look at that from a needs basis, there are people that need a place to live and they're currently renting right now. So we need to find those people that are renting that fit our target avatar that would want to buy in this particular building. And so each building sort of has that goal, that very narrow, these are the people that we're trying to reach. Um, to answer the question that you asked, which is more around how we work with the nonprofits, there are actual kind of shades of gray for each building. This particular building was market rate, so we bought this on the open market, not from a nonprofit. Now, because of our connections with nonprofits, we will lean on them PHC, which is Portland Housing Center, does home ownership classes. And so we work with them to find people that might have gone through their classes that have saved up enough money, that understand what it costs to own a place. And we might work with them to introduce one of our buildings to a family that's looking for it. This particular one with only 2 bedrooms is not likely to be a family entity. Our families are typically 3 and 4 bedroom properties. So this would be more likely like a dual income, no kids, or the 55 plus that we already talked about. So it's really just seeing what each nonprofit is good at and where their skill set is valuable. We will work with them to meet a need for one of our target buyers.
Got it. And what's to what extent do the nonprofits provide the down payment assistance?
That's based on individual. For example, on one extreme, you might have what's called the preferential preference policy, right? You've got an African American family who used to live in, let's call it the Albina district in Portland. They ran a freeway through that community 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 50 years ago. And those people who were displaced as a result of the freeway now get as much as $120,000 down payment assistance. To the other side, you might get a family, they're buying their first home. Chase Bank might gift them a $10,000 down payment assistance when they get a mortgage through them. So it's very different scale of who gets that but it's all administered through the Portland Housing Center. So
To,
most people, can I just
yeah,
add a little bit? So let's say there's 10,000 families created homeownership through PHC. About 3,500 have received down payment assistance. So 1 in 3 will qualify.
in the example that Jerry was mentioning, with the 6 unit property in Seaside, you said, okay, we know um, who we're going to be marketing this to, who this will be a fit for. Do
Yes.
you
So
do you do the same thing when you consider the down payment assistance? Like this will be, we know that this 12 unit property is going to serve this community that could potentially be getting upwards of $50,000 down payment assistance.
yeah, so let me get very granular for a second. I'm going to move this so I can see the whole thing. So this person is a small business owner. He's eligible for grants. This person is handicapped. She does not own a car. She rides her bike everywhere. She's qualified for down payment assistance. This is a market rate person. I don't know anything. I don't think they're qualified for anything. This is a CNA. She's qualified for down payment. This is a CNA. She's qualified for down payment. And I don't know about this one. So of a 6 unit building, 4 of those people we know already are qualified for some kind of down payment assistance program.
Got it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a very strategic decision on our part. We're always when we're talking to the broker, when we're buying the building, we want to know the background of who's in that building because we can, I mean, if it's an apples to oranges scenario, we pass on a lot of properties uh where we don't feel that there's going to be assistance provided.
Yeah, and I think then we do have a question come in, so I'll be quiet. But I think I just wanted to kind of note that it is compassionate capitalism. There is the service orientation of the group, but there's also very much a business decision being made behind these real estate transactions. So thanks for explaining all that. John's question was not sure if this was asked, but do you only operate in the Pacific Northwest or are you nationwide? Same for the nonprofits you work with.
So we are nationwide. We are in Portland, Tacoma, Seaside, Oregon, Salem, Oregon, Danville, Virginia, Little Rock, Arkansas, Tampa, Florida, soon to be in Chicago, and soon to be in Denver. And then the other part of that question, the nonprofits we work with, Portland, City of Austin. I don't have all the logos up here, so I'll run them off. Uh, Arlington, Virginia, we work with, City of Austin. There's two big organizations, 25,000 doors in the City of Austin and the Texas Housing Conservancy. They're selling $1 billion portfolio if you're interested. Um, we do work on a national scale. Um, and that like Portland is a wonderful city, but it's been in the news a lot. And like for good or for bad, we've been our goal is to make this a national solution. Like we've I think we've done a really good job at um, scaling all across the country because there's 5 million apartments that are owned by nonprofits, right? It's a huge opportunity, and they are all struggling.
Um, and the nonprofits, I just would assume that the nonprofits that you're buying from are generally local or local-ish to the physical location where
Right.
the sites are located, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. For example, Danville, Virginia, we're working with a local organization there. Portland, we're working with a couple of locals. Yeah. So especially when you're doing they're going to own the property. We're going to buy it from that nonprofit, and then you need someone with local knowledge of that area, right? Danville, Virginia operates differently than Portland, Oregon, or uh, 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 Tampa, Florida, right? Each market is going to have its own regulatory system and compliance system and nonprofit system. So we have partnership in those areas with expertise in those areas.
Awesome. We don't have any more questions, so I'd say if you would like to kind of go to the end with if you have or where your contact information is and any kind of final words you want to share.
Thank you. Okay, again, really appreciate everybody's questions and attention. StaterHome.Fund is the first place to go. LinkedIn, John Lane, Laine on LinkedIn. I pretty easy to find. Jerry Miller, also the same thing. My phone number, I'll share it, is 503-490-5889. My email is john@starterhome.fund. Gary at starterhome.fund. Like super easy. Like your imagination will be able to carry you through. Um, yeah.
All right. Starter. I'm just putting this in the chat. Here we go. Beautiful. Okay. So if you're interested in talking to John and Jerry, I put their email information in the chat so you can grab it there. Thank you very much, both of you, for presenting today. And thank you to everyone who joined the webinar. And if you have any questions that didn't get answered, please reach out to John and Jerry once again, or you can always reach out to me at mmore@camaplan.com. We will see you on next week's webinar. And otherwise, thank you, and have a great rest of your week.
Oh,
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
thank
Bye bye.
you. Thank you guys. Take care.